Greetings, listeners. Welcome to Season 6, The Moment of Truth. And we really are in a moment of truth right now. This is episode 66, The Battle for Minds. I pick up where I left off with Dr. Norma Milanovic talking about how we are engaged in a battle for minds right now. And not only spiritual people and metaphysical people are talking about this. Prince mentioned this back in 1999 and millions of pop culture references, including The Matrix. I'm also going to go into my own personal experience, recognizing and realizing and identifying where I started to be mind controlled. So stay tuned and enjoy the episode.
You are listening to Let's Get Metaphysical. This podcast explores the spiritual and metaphysical world through the experiences and opinions of the host and those interviewed. It should not necessarily be seen as direct endorsement or personal advice to our listeners. We encourage you to use your own discernment, judgment, and intuition regarding anything you learn from this show.
Let's get meta.
Welcome to Let's Get Metaphysical. I'm your host, Renata Maniaci, here to remind you that you are a spiritual being having a temporary human experience here on lovely planet Earth. You are not the mind. You are not the body. You are the soul. You are an eternal light being who, on some level, chose to be on this planet right now, at this beautiful moment, the moment of truth. This is Season 6, The Moment of Truth. In this season, I will be creating episodes based on my own intuition and using guidance from my angelic team to discuss what is occurring from my perspective on planet Earth right now, as she transitions from a primarily third dimensional reality to a primarily fifth dimensional reality. I'm being guided to take a break from having guests on the show and to share some of my own observations, experiences, and guidance about this most unprecedented and spectacular moment on this planet. We are being asked to reconcile and understand the inner and outer dynamic truth of what is occurring and what has occurred on this planet. And it is not what we've been told. As always, I encourage you to think, feel, and know the truth for yourself. Take what resonates and leave the rest. I am interested in the truth, and if you are too, I urge you, especially now, do your own research. One truth leads to another. Trust and follow the resonance of truth in your own body and soul, and may it lead you to the light. Masters and angels, please help us to always feel the truth, know the truth, tell the truth, and be the truth. And let truth be a guide for me and those listening. Thank you with gratitude and full faith. Bless creation. This is episode 66, The Battle for Minds. This is also the first episode in Season 6. And I didn't realize until writing the notes for this episode that with this season and the episode number, it would be 666. And to be honest, it is kind of fitting for this episode. You all know by now that I work in, with, and for the light. That said, numerology is a thing, and we've discussed that on this podcast before. It is not a coincidence that this episode is marked by these numbers. I wanted to do this episode ever since I interviewed Dr. Norma Milanovic for the previous episode, The Light Shall Set You Free. She spoke about how we are currently engaged in a huge final battle of Armageddon, a battle for the minds and a battle for the souls, she said. A grand war between the light and the dark, which has been occurring for longer than we know. Dr. Norma comes from a more Christian background and occasionally quotes the Bible. She comes off like a good Catholic girl, and that is great for some people and difficult for others. And using very 3D black and white terms as well, the quintessential light versus dark battle. Being neither Christian nor overly tied to the 3D, I still found it very useful to use this language to visualize what is happening on the planet now. After all, even if we are leaving 3D for 5D, the dualistic language of the 3D might be more helpful to many than the 5D language of the planet shifting into a higher vibration. It might actually be easier to understand that in 3D terms, we are in an actual battle between light and dark forces, even if at higher levels of reality, the perspective is somewhat different. And what's more, Dr. Norma hasn't been the only one discussing this very idea. The artist formerly known as Prince, who almost couldn't be more different than Dr. Norma in many capacities, relayed a very strikingly similar message back in 1999. Prince's words at a 1999 award ceremony were, "One thing I wanted to say is don't be fooled by the internet. It's cool to get on the computer, but don't let the computer get on you. It's cool to use the computer. Don't let the computer use you. Y'all saw The Matrix. There's a war going on. The battlefield's in the mind, and the prize is the soul. So just be careful. Be very careful. Thank you." He said that, and The Matrix, incidentally, had just been released that year in 1999. And as many of you listening know, I did an episode based off of the ideas presented in that movie and how they are applying to us in this now moment. That episode is 52, Red Pill or Blue Pill. I've also heard that Keanu Reeves, who played the main character, Neo, has said, "The truth is, The Matrix is a documentary." I don't know if Keanu actually said that. If anyone listening here knows Keanu, maybe you can ask him for me. But for this next little bit, I'd like to share some of my experiences with you that allow me to believe that that statement was true, now more than ever. In this lifetime, I've been blessed, and some days I might say cursed, with a very strong mind. I suspect that to some extent I came in with this, but I also know that I was shaped by my many different learning experiences. I've had the opportunity to learn in several kinds of educational structures for the first 30 years of my life, including Montessori school, Catholic school, public school, private university, experiential learning, study abroad programs, 2 Ivy League universities, massage school, and a top-notch professional energy medicine curriculum. I would consider myself extremely overeducated by conventional 3D terms. Looking back, I actually remember the moment when my spirit broke and my mind was molded into what the powers that be wanted from me. I was in the last part of my 2nd grade year at Catholic school, which I had joined in the 2nd semester. The first semester of my 2nd grade was spent at my beloved Montessori school, where I had started my learning experience. And because of a series of events in our lives at the time, I needed to change school halfway through the year. If you don't know what a Montessori school is, please look it up. But for the purposes of this episode, the difference between a Montessori school and Catholic school is like day and night. At Montessori, I had been allowed and encouraged to work where I liked, how I liked, sitting or standing or lying down. I could choose the order of what subjects I needed to work on as long as I got them done. I could whistle while I worked. This had been my primary learning environment for 4 years before I entered Catholic school. My Catholic school teacher saw me standing by my desk doing my work while whistling and other non-conventional things to her, and she thought I was misbehaving. She thought I was a rebel and a troublemaker, and she would publicly punish and embarrass me when I wasn't doing things in the conventional way. And sometime near the end of 2nd grade, I submitted. I conformed. Luckily, I guess, for me, I learned the conventional education rules, and I learned them so well that I excelled in academics for the next 2 decades in various learning environments. But from then on, they had succeeded in having control over much of my mind, until recently. And this, I suppose, is my main point with this episode, the battle for minds. It's not mind control if you know it's happening to you. You can't be brainwashed if you are aware that is what they are doing. Do you see? That would defeat the purpose. A series of events that happened in 2020 and leading up to 2020 were what truly made this year, the year 2020, one of clear vision for me. And I'll go into that in the next episode a little bit. But for now, let's just say that looking back, I can see and perceive that it wasn't just the various education systems that had my mind, though it was certainly one of the earliest things that had my mind. It was everything. Music, pop culture, movies, Disney, magazines, top radio songs, news, politics, gender norms, Hollywood, social media, all major media. Everything that is considered normal and mainstream and is on a screen. It's a machine. It's actually staggering once you can see it. It's a true lifting of the veil. And the battle for the mind starts right away, young. The younger they can control your mind, the harder it is for you to break free. I was 8, maybe younger in different aspects. And I might not be completely free now, but this was a big year for me and the world. Season 5 was called The Great Awakening for a reason. And now we are at a very special moment in the Earth's evolution, what I am calling the moment of truth. This is being recorded in early December of 2020, and I'm not one for predicting things, but I think these next few months will be very revealing, shocking, and transformative for the planet. I'll do my best to stay along and share what I'm able to share with you and hope that it benefits you in some way. And to get back to what I was saying before about the interesting numerology of this episode, season 6, episode 66, there's been a lot of talk about the mark of the beast in certain circles right now. And a lot of folks believe that 666 is denoting of the vaccine that is coming out. And I don't know much about that at all, but I think it is interesting, the whole ideology and belief systems around vaccines and how they are and can be used to control people. I mean, the things that people are saying right now, that we might not be able to fly without having this COVID vaccine, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that is a deep level of control that we have not seen on the planet thus far in some cases. And so I'm not the person to talk about the interesting theories that are coming up around the number 666 and how that might connect to vaccines and Bill Gates and all of this stuff. I don't know about that, but I know that there is stuff out there if you are curious in learning about that. So I just thought that that was an interesting thing of why the numerology for this particular episode came up. And you can look into that if you are interested. And before I close for today, I want to go back to the second part of what Prince said. He said, the prize is the soul. Why would forces that be? And if we want to get real 3D about it, why would dark forces, why would they want to control your mind? Does the soul follow the mind in these earthly bodies? Is the soul really the prize? I don't know for sure, but here's what I can say about that from my own observation. As 2020 has progressed, my vision becomes more and more clear, at least to me, and I can see where I was before. And I may go into this in a later episode, but I was so deep, I would consider myself so deep in what I would call mind control, that you have no idea that you're in it. You have absolutely no idea. You think that you have all this free will and these free choices, and you can watch whatever you want, you can listen to whatever you want, etc., etc. you have no idea that all the things around you are actually being created and are owned by the same 6 people in the world, or the same 6 companies, which is a very small amount of people. So that's a really interesting thing. But I can see where I was before, and where so many people that I love are still good people, good souls, people who would never want to harm anyone or knowingly support people who were harming others. Yet from my perspective at this moment, they are supporting people who are harming others in very real, evil, and sadistic ways, but they can't see it. And I couldn't see it when I was in that. Their minds are controlled, and they only see what I used to see, which is choices and diversity and caring about humanity and the earth and cutting edge ideas, etc., etc., etc. And I know I'm not going into specifics on purpose. Their minds are so strong. The intellect is so overpowering that they are trapped in their minds and only see what the others, the forces, want them to see. And some of these people that I love so dearly are so intelligent that they think it's impossible that they're being mind controlled, that they're being brainwashed, that all of their free choice, free will, things that have led them to where they are now was essentially a setup. They think it's impossible that this could happen, that they have free will and that they're doing the right thing. They're supporting the correct people, the right groups, the good causes. And I know I'm speaking in very 3D terms, and I don't actually believe in black and white and right and wrong and dark and light. And we do to some extent, of course, because we're here on planet Earth on the 3D level. And that's where we're at right now, but we're not always here. Our higher selves, our souls are very multidimensional and in higher dimensional realities, and understand that this is more than just dark and light. And I'll get into that in a minute. But just for the purposes of this, the correct people, the right groups, the good causes. Remember, it's not mind control if you know it's happening to you. So I want to leave you with my interpretation and guidance of what is happening from a 5th dimensional perspective. And I'll tune into my angelic team now to bring this through. What is happening right now is truly unprecedented. It is occurring with the help of higher dimensional galactic and celestial light beings, believe it or not. This is a coordinated effort from the universe, from many cosmic beings and places, and beings from other places, dimensions, and planets, to help to push Earth into her next iteration. And that comes with all of us, all the beings that live on this planet, also being pushed into the next vibrational reality, which is a higher vibrational reality than the Earth has currently been in for a long time. And from this perspective, from this higher vibrational perspective, it's all perfect. This is all divine. If you can raise your vibration enough to feel this and see this and embody this, it's not just a battle between the light and the dark. It is something that was preordained on many levels and destined to happen, and now is the time. And in fact, most, if not all, of the souls on the planet currently now chose to be here for this moment, for this transitional moment where we enter a new era on this planet. And from the 5D perspective, so many humans are still so disconnected from the truth that we are eternal souls that we have forgotten. We have forgotten that there is not only one life. This is not the only thing there is. This is not the only planet there is. This is not the only lifetime there is. and that we do, in fact, have some choice where and what we experience in our lifetimes. And this is a big one. To be here for this moment, it's actually incredibly exciting. It's a beautiful thing. So from a fifth dimensional perspective, what I'm being asked to share with you is that we're good. This is happening. It's divinely orchestrated. It is divinely guided. And even though so many beings, humans on this planet, have forgotten the divine, have forgotten the universe, have forgotten that there are universal laws that govern everything, and that there is Creator that governs everything. And there are angels that help with everything. Even though so many people and humans have forgotten that, that's the reality. And it's being taken care of now. And it's actually a very joyous and exciting time from this perspective. And that's what I wanted to share. That's what they are bringing through right now about that perspective. Blessed creation. On the next episode, I'm going to talk a bit more about brainwashing, my experience of waking up from mind control, and tips on how you might be able to do that as well. And I'll also share any other 5D messages that my teams would like me to share. If you are into this topic and want to dive deeper, you might enjoy my live course, Exit the Matrix, that I co-lead with my Up, and Awaken co-creator, Julia Malone. This is a 3-week remote course that takes a deep dive into subconscious clearing, becoming aware of and deprogramming and releasing old negative conditioning, trashing any subliminal messaging that we've picked up over a lifetime on this planet, letting go of all of that as much as we are able, and reprogramming to bring the divine and universal truths closer to us. This work is deep, and it will change you. If you're hearing this when it airs, we are running this course at the beginning of January in 2021. Check out realizeyourawakening.com for more information. I'm going to leave it there for today. Thank you for listening. Stay safe, stay awake, and stay meta.
The Let's Get Metaphysical podcast is an Up, and Awaken production. Our intention is to raise the vibration of the planet by sharing, validating, and normalizing spiritual and metaphysical experiences. The show is produced and hosted by Renata Maniaci, co-creator of Up, and Awaken Productions, a platform devoted to creating conscious content to assist in the awakening currently taking place on this planet. If you want to see more from Up, and Awaken, please subscribe to the Up, and Awaken Productions channel on YouTube. If you're looking for more support in your awakening process, please consider becoming a member of our Up, and Awaken community on Patreon. Patrons in this community both give support to the conscious content that we create, like this podcast, and receive support in their awakening via the community's offerings, including courses, live group healings, and an interactive community. You can join the Up, and Awaken community by visiting patreon.com/Up, and Awaken. Subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Give us a 5-star rating or write us a review on your podcast app. To learn more, visit our website at letsgetmeta.com. The Let's Get Meta podcast is almost entirely listener supported. If you love the show and want to support it, you can still become a patron of the podcast at patreon.com/Up, and Awaken. We appreciate all types of support. It helps keep this show going. Thank you for listening. Stay meta.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.